Hi, folks. We're Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about diversity being a huge strength that has to be heavily promoted with avalanche level propaganda and lies and grotesque untruths, and then contrast that to the travel adverts playing in Australia at the moment, the travel adverts for people to travel to Europe. Northern Europe, or so it's Rome, Paris, London, and Madrid, and Berlin, and Rhine River cruising. A whole range of advertisements are running, and it's online and elsewhere. They're really hitting it pretty hard. But what's the common theme in these adverts? You may ask. Well, there's only white people. Only white people. So the shot of the Eiffel Tower, for example, in Paris, depicts a reasonably busy, I guess, but somewhat serene. And there's no black and brown street hawkers, no East Europeans, hustling and grifting. It's all white people looking very happy and contented. And there's a little cruise, ferry going down the Seine River, the main river in Paris, and that's only white people in there smiling away, no black and brown people. Go to some of the cultural centres around Arc de Triomphe, or the areas outside the museums and art galleries, only white people. In fact, you'd be forgiven for thinking that there wasn't a single black or brown people in Paris or France at all. So the reality, however, is quite different. You can go on to any online depiction of present-day Paris, and there are whole areas of Paris where there's hardly any white people, if any white people at all. If you look around the main tourist areas in Paris, they're thick with black and brown grifters, hustlers, and shysters, and goodness knows what. And white people, again, in the minority. So why do the travel adverts depict a Europe that simply doesn't exist? Not even partially. Now, I scanned hard looking for even one black person or brown person or non-white person. Even an Asian would have done, anybody. And there's a restaurant scene, and in if you look at sort of depth of field, you've got the foreground, the midground, and the background. In background, there's a waiter there, or a chef, or somebody who cook, who possibly could be black, but that's or maybe brown, but that's maybe so. Given the population of Paris is 40-45% non-white, and the population of, and to do that, you have to take in the greater Paris and the outer burbs and so on. And Berlin, there's a huge presence of black and brown people. Rome, the same, and again, places like Naples and the bigger cities, Florence and the like. The downtown area is absolutely covered in black, brown grifters, shysters, and other third world parasites. But none of that is shown in the adverts. I mean, none of it. It's not even hinted at or suggested. There's no little thing saying, well, we're showing you an idyllic fantasy version where only white people exist. And clearly the adverts are being pitched at white people. Only white people exist in this fantasy, but the reality is don't go to any of these places we're advertising, because you'll be hustled and grifted and shysted out of and so it's a fantasy world that they're talking about. There's not even close to what the reality is. Now the same goes for, say, adverts in North America to come to Australia or New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand are depicted as this whites only paradise. Well, whites only. It's a great place, friendly people, always permanently smiling, and this and that. Now, the reality is, in downtown Sydney today, I can travel there on public transport to go into the CBD for business. and I can be the only white person in the train carriage in Sydney, Australia. Now, 25 years ago, you could, if you even saw one non-white person, it would be a novelty. That's how rare it was 25 years ago. Today, it's the exact opposite. I can be the only white person in the train carriage. And, I took a bus a little while ago to, only because the trains were stopped and I had to take a bus to go somewhere. And I was the only white person on the bus. And there were all these third world people, looking like, sounding like, vibing as third world peasants, which they were, all with their anchor babies, the toddler, the newborn, and then another one on the way with their anchor babies there, and that was it, chattering away. The smell of curry, and it wasn't Australia. It was, I'd gone to some other country. Now, being a well-traveled business guy, I had to go to other countries to get that experience. Now it's all happening in downtown Sydney, or as you're on the public transport system, the person making the announcements as to what station the train's stopping at and what'll be the next station is speaking English, obviously, as a recently acquired second language, and you can barely understand what the fuck they're saying. If you didn't know what the next train station was, as I do, or where the train was going, if you didn't know that, you wouldn't have a fucking clue what they were talking about. So the government is purposefully picking people that speak piss poor English to make the public announcements. And Indian dialects seem to be the major one, but other Asian dialects as well, language, sounds as well. So I mean, you don't do that unless you want. That's purposeful. Let's get someone to make the announcements who's going to do it in such clipped English that no one's going to have a fucking clue what they're saying. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. I'll sign off on that. You don't do that unless it's willful and purposeful. You pick people that can speak English clearly and succinctly, and so that if everybody knows what's going on. You don't pick people that can't speak English to make the public announcements. So when you get into downtown Sydney, if I go to the major, say the downtown CBD or the downtown shopping mall, or that sort of thing, the train stations, white people are in the minority everywhere, and in some cases hardly any. Now there are some that say there's one train station that's next to a large university. It's got a massive overseas student population, so you'd expect to have an overrepresentation there of black and brown people. That I get, but in other areas where there's no university nearby, I can walk down entire shopping malls, especially in, say, food courts and takeout food areas, that type of thing. I can walk down entire areas. There's one that goes from pretty much all the way from one train station through to the next, if you want to walk to the next one or close to it. And I can walk through that and not in the shops, like either side, walking down either side, including a mezzanine, by the way. Either side is takeout food shops and so on. And I can walk down that whole distance, and I have walked down the whole thing. There is not one white person working in any of those shops. And most of the people, the people working in them are Asians, and they're midgets. A lot of them are like 4'6", 4'8" inches tall, 140 centimeters tall, and a lot of them have serious case. In fact, nearly all of them have serious cases of rickets and other associated sort of down the line ailments and maladies, to do with hips and ankles and so on. But rickets are usually the knees. This is the Sydney that you're going to come to, and every single tourist destination on the tourist brochures that you'll go to in Sydney, Melbourne too, in Sydney has white people as a minority, in some cases barely noticeable, and there are areas of the business district again where white people are by far and away the minority. That's the reality when you come. But to look at the travel brochures and the travel adverts, you would think that there wasn't a single non-white person in the whole of Australia. There's a thing, if you go into the rural, sort of the very rural areas of Central Australia, the desert areas, there it's highlighted. You can get an experience of Indigenous Aboriginal Australians, and some of the the things they do, and that some of that's touted as a possible tourist attraction. There you see black people, but outside of that, none. So why misrepresent it? If diversity is such an cultural enrichment, the diversity, I'm feeling so good about. If it's so good, and we're told every day, every second of every day, that it's huge and it's good and it's wonderful and it's wow, morally superior and anyone disagrees is Hitler, Nazi, fascist, why do they not then feature it? You can come to Australia and not see a single white person. Hooray! You can come to Australia and find that they only speak Indian. Why not? You can come to Australia and all you're going to get is curry. I mean, why not push that line? I mean, that's the reality. So why not state it clearly? Why pretend that there's a fantasy world of only white people in all these places when in fact there isn't? It's the reverse of that. You look at London today, and it's what 70% non-white. I mean, holy guacamole! Why not say that? Why depict the Tower of London and Westminster Abbey and Winchester Cathedral? This and that. All these. Why depict them which they do? Why depict them in these advertisements that there's only white people there and there's not a black or brown person in sight? It's an outrageous misrepresentation. I mean, it's tantamount to a full-on lie, and yet they do it. Now, the advertisers are sitting down and okay, what is going to make people want to come to visit these places, Paris and London and so on? What's going to make them want to do it? Well, they want a quiet, clean, whites-only type environment, and that's what they want. That's why they're going to go on holiday. That's why they'll pay for the vacation. And some of these vacations aren't cheap. Some of those 5-star river cruises, you got to stump up some serious coin to do some of those. But again, they're depicting it as everywhere you stop, there only be white people. So if that's the big attraction, that white people want to go to places where other white people are, they don't want to go to places that are overrun with third world peasant hustlers and grifters. They know that, the advertisers know that, and yet. We're told in our own countries that diversity is such a strength and how wonderful it is, and it's such a wonderful, morally uplifting experience, when it's the complete opposite. The reality is nobody fucking wants it. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback Channel, and thank you for listening.